There was a guy back in the 70s who was a psychic for the CIA who handed a folder to another guy with the location for 4 mountains that have, allegedly, extraterrestrial bases inside of them, and he died under mysterious circumstances. You guys. Okay, I can't get into all the details or we will be here for an hour. So there's a documentary called Third Eye Spies. Please, at some time in your life, watch it. What are the 4 mountains, you ask? Oh, I'm gonna tell you, but first I gotta tell you about Pat Price so you know, like, why you should listen. Okay, so the SRI started doing all this investigation on psychics and remote viewing. Well, Pat Price used to work for a police department, and he was like, hey guys, I'm kind of intuitive when it comes to solving cases. Maybe I would be a good candidate. Good is an understatement. Okay, so one guy gives them remote coordinates to test them to see if they can remotely view what is there. So they report back with all these very specific things, like a green filing cabinet in this building with very specific file names and very specific code names. And this guy's like, time out, you're wrong. Well, this is Kit Green, who is in charge of all the medical stuff that's going along with these guys who are being basically tested or who end up working in this program. Anyway, he was like, so they're all wrong. That's interesting. So he goes and drives around that location, and what does he come up to? A military guarded security gate. So he goes back and starts telling everybody about this military gate. And anyway, word gets spread about all these code names and code words. Well, guess who comes knocking on Kit Green's door? The frickin' NSA. And they're like, why is the CIA spying on us? And the CIA is like, what are you talking about? Well, turns out all those little code names that Pat Price was spewing were top secret. No one could have known. No one knew that base was there. The base was just on the other side of the ridge from those coordinates. So it turns out they weren't wrong. They were remote viewing inside of the filing cabinet at this NSA base that was built to spy during the Cold War. And the NSA was like, how the hell did you know we were here? So the CIA pulls Pat Price from the SRI and says, you're coming to work for us solely, and puts him in a cabin, and he starts remote viewing solely for the CIA. In 1973, he hands this guy Hal a folder at an SRI convention that has, guess what, the location of mountains that have allegedly extraterrestrial bases inside of them. Well, the whole program went through these like eras of where there were particular people who didn't believe in what they were doing and they were not on board. Hal holds on to this file for 7 years, and then in 1980 reveals it to Atwater, who is the operations and training officer for the U.S. Army, part of this remote viewing program. Cue Joe, who is Agent 001 for the Army remote viewing program, who did remote viewing for the Army for years. Cue Project 8200, because in 1982, they took Pat Price's file to see if he would remote view the exact same things that Pat did. There's a YouTube video, I'm dropping it in the comments. You guys can go listen to the audio file of his remote viewing of the locations that Pat Price said these bases were in. Oh, it goes deeper than that. He gets into the communication between them and this deep space thing. So what are the mysterious circumstances? Because Patrick dies right after he remote views some underwater base. Dies in his hotel room in Vegas, gets sent to the hospital. A mysterious man shows up with a briefcase that says, oh, hey, by the way, Pat Price had a bunch of heart problems. They don't do an autopsy. They cremate him. Then they call his wife after they've disposed of the body. Weirdly enough, before all of this happens, Pat Price calls a bunch of friends to tell them goodbye, takes out a $1 million life insurance policy to give to his wife, and goes and visits his son. Did he psychically know he was going to die? Did someone off him? Or is he still alive and doing work for the CIA? The alleged extraterrestrial bases, which you're going to want to go listen to those tapes, I'm telling you, are Mount Zeal in Australia, Mount Hayes in Alaska. Have you guys heard of the Alaska Triangle? Mount Perdido in Spain, and Mount Nyangani in Zimbabwe. And this one, the locals literally call it the mountain that swallows people because people go missing without a trace here. Also, during Project 8200, Joe talks about seeing underwater bases.